Goals. As I mentioned before, the compound effect is always working. It will always take you somewhere. The question is where. You can harness this relentless force and have it carry you to new heights, but you must know where you want to go. What goals, dreams, and destinations do you desire? When I attended the funeral of Paul J. Meyer, another mentor of mine, I was reminded of the richness and diversity of his life. He achieved, experienced, and contributed more than dozens of people combined. His obituary, his obituary made me reassess the quantity and size of the goals I set for myself. If Paul were here, he would tell us, if you are not making the progress that you would like to make and are capable of making, it is simply because your goals are not clearly defined. One of Paul's most memorable quotes reminds us of the importance of goals. Whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. The one skill most responsible for the abundance in my life is learning how to effectively set and achieve goals. Something almost magical happens when you organize and focus your creative power on the well defined target. I've seen this time and again. The highest achievers in the world have all succeeded because they mapped out their visions. The person who has a clear, compelling, and white hot burning why will always defeat even the best of the best at doing the how. To figure out where you might need to add to or adjust your goals, take the life assessment on page 168 or download at www.thecompoundeffect.com/free. How goal setting actually works, the mystery secret revealed. You only see experience, you only see experience and get what you look for. If you don't know what to look for, you certainly won't get it. By our very nature, we are goal seeking creatures. Our brain is always trying to align our outer world with what we're seeing and expecting in our inner world. So when you instruct your brain to look for the things you want, you will begin to see them. In fact, the object of your desire has probably always existed around you, but your mind and eyes weren't open to seeing it. In reality, this is how the law of attraction really works. It is not the mysterious, esoteric voodoo it sometimes sounds like. It's far simpler and more practical than that. We are bombarded with billions of sensory, visual, audio, physical bites of information each day. To keep ourselves from going insane, we ignore 99.9% of them, only really seeing, hearing, or experiencing those upon which our mind focuses. This is why when you think something, it appears that you are miraculously drawing it into your life. In reality, you're now just seeing what was already there. You are truly attracting it to your life. It wasn't there before or accessible to you until your thoughts focused and directed your mind to see it. Make sense? This isn't mysterious at all. It's in fact quite logical. Now, with this new perception, whatever your mind is thinking internally is what will focus on, and all of a sudden see within that 99.9% of remaining space. Here's a well-worn example because it's so true. In shopping for or buying a new car, you suddenly start to see that model and make everywhere, right? It seems like there are tons of them on the streets all of a sudden when they weren't there yesterday. But is that realistic? Of course not. They were there all along, but you weren't paying attention to them. Thus, they didn't really exist to you until you gave them your attention. When you define your goals, you give your brain something new to look for and focus on. It's as if you're giving your mind a new set of eyes from which to see all the people, circumstances, conversations, resources, ideas, and creativity surrounding you. With this new perspective and inner itinerary, your mind proceeds to match up on the outside what you want most on the inside, your goal. It's that simple. The difference in how you experience the world and draw ideas, people, and opportunities into your life after you have clearly defined your goals is profound. In one of my interviews with Brian Tracy, he put it this way: top people have very clear goals. They know who they are and they know what they want. They write it down and they make plans for its accomplishment. Unsuccessful people carry their goals around in their head like marbles rattling around in a can. And we say a goal that is not in writing is merely a fantasy. And everybody has fantasies, but those fantasies are like bullets with no powder in the cartridge. People go through life shooting blanks without written goals, and that's the starting point. I suggest that you take some time today to make a list of your most important goals. I recommend considering goals in all aspects of your life, not just for your business or finances. Be wary of the high price of putting too much focus on any single aspect of your life to the exclusion of anything else. Go for whole life success. Balance in all aspects of life that are important to you: business, finances, wealth, and well being. Spiritually, spirituality, family, and relationships and lifestyle. The system I have used has now been made available to the public in the program Living Your Best Year Ever, a proven system for achieving big goals, available at www.success.com/business best year ever. Who you have to become. When most people set out to achieve new goals, they ask, okay, I have my goal. Now what do I need to do to get it? It's not a bad question, but it's not the first question that needs to be addressed either. The question we should be asking ourselves is, who do I need to become? You probably know some people who seem to do all the right things but still don't produce the results they want, right? Why not? One thing Jim Rohn taught me is, if you want to have more, you have to become more. Success is not something you pursue. What you pursue will elude you. It will be like trying to chase butterflies. Success is something you attract by the person you become. When you understand that philosophy, wow, it revolutionized my life and personal growth. When I was single and ready to find a mate and get married, I made a long list of traits I desired in the perfect woman for me. I filled more than 40 pages of a journal, front and back, describing her in great detail. her personality, character, key attributes, attitudes, and philosophies about life. When, even what kind of family she'd come from, including her culture and physical makeup, down to the texture of her hair. I wrote in depth what our life would be like and what we'd do together. If I had then asked, what do I have to do to find and get this girl? I might still be on the butterfly chase. Instead, I looked back at the list and considered whether or not I embodied those same attributes myself. Did I have the very qualities I was expecting in her? I asked myself, what kind of a man would a woman like to be looking for? Who do I need to become to be attractive to a woman of this of this substance? I filled 40 more pages describing all the attributes, qualities, behaviors, attitudes, and characteristics I needed to become myself. Then I went on work. Then I went to work on becoming and achieving those qualities. Guess what? It worked. As if she were peeled off the pages of my journal and appeared in front of me. My wife, Georgia, is exactly what I described and asked for, in almost eerie detail. The key was my getting clear on who I'd have to be to attract and keep a woman of her quality, and then doing the work to achieve that. To identify bad habits and needed new habits essential to becoming and achieving what you want. Complete the habit assessment sheet on page 169 or download at www.thecompoundeffect.com/free. Behave yourself. All right, let's map out your process for achieving the goals you've decided upon. This is the doing process, or in some cases, the stop doing process. What stands between you and your goal is your behavior. Do you need to stop doing anything so the compound effect isn't taking you into a downward spiral? Similarly, what do you need to start doing to change your trajectory? So what it so that it's headed in the most beneficial direction. In other words, what habits and behaviors do you need to subtract from and add to your your life? Your life comes down to this formula. You choose plus behavior plus habit plus compounded equals goals. Decision, action, repeated action, time. That's why it's imperative to figure out which behaviors are blocking the path that leads to your goal and which behaviors will help you accomplish your goal. You may think you've got a handle on all your bad habits, but I bet good money you're wrong. Again, that's why tracking is so effective. I mean, honestly, do you know how many hours of TV you really watch every day? How many hours do you spend tuned to news channels or keeping up with the goals and accomplishments of others on the sports or style networks? Do you know how many cans of soda you drink or how many hours you spend doing non-essential work on the computer, Facebook, reading online, gossip, etc.? As I emphasized in the previous chapter, your first job is to become aware of how you're behaving. Where you fallen asleep on the job and developed an unconscious bad habit that leads you astray? Not long ago, a successful executive with whom I serve on a nonprofit board hired me to mentor him on improving his productivity. He was doing well, but knew he could optimize his time and output further with some coaching. I had time I had him track his activities for a week, and I noticed something I see too often. He spent an incredible amount of time reviewing the news. 45 minutes in the morning reading the newspaper, another 30 minutes listening to news on his morning commute, and an equal amount of time tuning in again on his drive home, back home. During his workday, he checked Yahoo News several times, spending at least 20 minutes in total. When he got home, he catch the last 15 minutes of the local news while greeting his family. Then he'd catch up on 30 minutes of sports news and 30 minutes of the 10 o'clock news before going to bed. In total, he was spending 3.5 hours with the news each day. This man wasn't an economist or a commodities trader or in any profession that lived or died by the latest news. The time he spent with the paper and news programs on radio and TV greatly exceeded what he needed to be a knowledgeable voter and contributing member of society, or even enhance or even to enhance his own personal interests. In fact, he was getting very little valuable information through his programming choices, or rather, his lack of choices. So, why did he spend nearly 4 hours a day consuming it? It was a habit. I suggested he keep his TV and radio off, channel his newspaper, cancel his newspaper subscription, and set up an RSS feeder so he could select and receive only the news he deemed important for his business and personal interest. Doing so immediately cleared out 95% of the mind cluttering and time sucking noise. He could now review all that mattered to him in less than 20 minutes a day. This left the 45 minutes in the morning, his commute time, and that hour in the evening for productive activities, exercise, listening to instructional and inspirational material, reading, planning, preparing, and spending quality time with his family. He tells me he's never felt less stressed. Constant negative news has a tendency to make you anxious. The more inspired and focused than he does now. One small simple change in habit, one giant leap forward in balance and productivity. Okay, now it's your turn. Get out your little notebook and write out your top 3 goals. Now make a list of the bad habits that might be sabotaging your progress in each area. Write down every one. Habits and behaviors never lie. If there's a discrepancy between what you say and what you do, I'm going to believe what you do every time. If you tell me you want to be healthy, but you've got Doritos dust on your fingers, I'm believing the Doritos. If you say self improvement is a priority, but you spend more time with your Xbox than at the library, I'm believing the Xbox. If you say you're a dedicated professional, but you show up late and unprepared, your behavior rats you out every time. You say your family is your top priority, but if they don't appear on your busy calendar, they aren't really. Look at the list for bad habits you just made. That's the truth about who you are. Now you get to decide whether that's okay or if you want to change. Next, add to that list all the habits you need to adopt that practice and compound over time will result in your glorious achieving your goals. Making this list isn't about wasting energy or getting judgmental and regretful. It's about taking a clear headed look at what you want to improve. I'm not going to you there. However, let's uproot the, those sabotaging bad habits and plant new, positive, and healthy ones in their place.